Hi, this is Henry Chamberlain, and I have a wonderful interview ahead with Kay Sohini, This Beautiful, Ridiculous City. And Kay, I just briefly started to chat with you. Sometimes I'll chat a little bit longer, so forgive me for not maybe spending a little extra time warming things up. But I think you're ready to hit the ground running. I wanted to, well, let's just begin by you giving us a little nutshell of what the book is about.
Yeah, sure. I'm never really sure how to answer this question because you've read it. It's a memoir, but it's about a lot of things. I think at the very center of it, it's about literature and being very stark about New York, and but also some very sobering topics such as escaping abuse and its impact on my memory, and also here in New York about inequity in housing and how that relates to home and belonging. And I sort of try to incorporate a lot of like social commentary along with all of it. So I find it hard to characterize, but yeah, it's about a lot of things, I guess.
That's a great way to begin. I'm going to make a segue over to a different camera just to go through a few pages. Maybe that'll inspire some uh, some comments here and there. Well, it's a beautiful book, 10-speed graphic. You can't go wrong. And there's so many different places to begin. Like I come from a comics background and a graphic recording background, so I clued into this book is something special, and it's so well put together. It's about organizing data and doing it in an appealing, making it appear as effortless as possible. And of course, it just it's a beauty. Just the first few pages in, you're setting the tone for what this book is about. Your love of the city and why you wanted to, why you gravitated to New York, and it just goes on into your upbringing in Calcutta. Stop me if I'm maybe going too fast. Is there something you might like to say about the opening pages? How you bring in the reader?
Yeah, if you can turn back to the page of the very red one with me looking back, sort of like the one that's also on the cover. That's the one.
Yes.
Yeah. It's this is one of my favorite. I think this is my most favorite page actually. It's about if you look at the panel behind me, the one in black and white, that's actually supposed to be Bechdel, like Alison Bechdel.
Yes.
And yeah,
Yeah.
and I used to take this class as I write in the book, I used to take this class at NYU, and I used to commute through the station, the Washington Square, the station near Washington Square Park, and I remember the station appearing in one of Bechdel's book, I think Fun Home or maybe Are You My Mother, either of the two, and
Hmm.
just really, I don't know, like when I was commuting through there one day, like it just hit me like this is a city where, like all my heroes literally sort of like grew up and became famous. And it was just, I don't know, it was like so, it was beautiful. I think it felt a little magical, and I just wanted to really capture that, I guess.
Yeah, that's so well said. I don't know if you had a chance to see. I did a review of your book because it helps me get my thoughts together. And everyone has their own love letter to New York and their own impression. So you tune into something that it's I think very visceral and resonates with so many people. Just going to the big city, specifically New York. What can you tell us about New York in particular that you love that you love?
I think the fact that, like it's the proximity and the possibilities for me because it's not like every day I live here I'm doing something exciting. Most of the days I'm just sitting here literally right here and drawing and or writing and working on my stuff. But it's the fact that I can step out and there's this whole world, and you can go to these like amazing museums, and like you can just be here where so many other people have been, and it's just I don't know, I just find it has a very magical vibe to it to like being
Mm-hmm.
formal, and I really enjoy that. And also the fact that I am an introvert, as I mentioned in the book, but I really like the white noise here. Like it's never completely quiet, and I know it gets on some people's nerves, but I it just gives me the energy to keep going somehow.
I hear you. He has a juxtaposition of so many things all at once. It's incredibly stimulating, especially for a young person coming in to it, and then as you get older, you lose some of the magic, but and then it comes back. I think as you get older, it goes in and out a bit. Like you start to think about the inconveniences, and you think about all sorts of other more grown-up stuff as you get older. But your introduction to comics in a big way, of course, was when you did your dissertation, and I'm thinking about that too because I started with the book and then I went to your website and then I went to I guess it's like excerpts of your dissertation that's on the website. Uh, can you talk about a little because you don't mention your drawing in this book? Did you start from scratch, or were you always somebody who liked to draw and then you just refined your way of doing things?
Um, so I used to draw as a child, but like everybody else really. But no, I actually taught myself how to draw properly and how to draw comics when I was doing my dissertation. So like about maybe I finished it a couple of years back, but I started about 7 years back. Um, and my introduction to it was really Susanna's because I saw on flattening when I was applying for grad school, and then um it was I didn't know, like I don't think anybody else had done it before him, like a whole graphic dissertation for a PhD, and I saw it and I didn't know how to draw, but I really wanted to try it. And somehow my mentors were Jeffrey Santana and Lisa Diedrich from Stony Brook, and eventually Nick too joined the committee. But and they just let me. I still don't know why they let me because my drawings were terrible. I didn't know how to make comics, and they still let me. And they somehow really believed in my ideas when I didn't, and that sort of really gave me a push. And
Hmm.
I worked really hard and actually learned how to draw properly. And here we are, I guess.
Yeah,
But
you mentioned next to Santa's. I looked through my books, and yes, I do have a copy of Unflattening. Of course, he was like ahead of his time. This was back in 2015, so we're reaching the decade mark of when this book first came out. And so, yeah, we can talk about Nick for sure. I'd always heard here and there a fanciful remark by somebody say, "Oh, I did my dissertation on with comics." I think I know it was like a anecdotal, but I think Jessica Abel might have done a dissertation in a comics format. But anyway, but yes, your art is beautiful. This would blow anyone away that doesn't feel that they're up to the task of learning how to draw. I mean, it's all just beautiful.
yeah,
And I do analog and I do digital, and of course I jumped on the Procreate bandwagon like so many other folks. So I'm sure you love the tablet and using Procreate.
yeah. I mean, I started when I just started. I was doing just like pencil and charcoals. Like I took a class at Teachers College Columbia, just like learn anatomy and such like. And so for that, we were using like just pens and charcoal and stuff like that. And eventually, I figured that I really needed to get on Procreate because if I were to draw a book, it's really difficult to do it manually because
Hmm.
editing and stuff becomes quite difficult. And so yeah, but Procreate felt like I don't know. It's for me. I've been running on Procreate so long, so I could be wrong, but it really feels very traditional to me. Like, of course, it's digital drawing, but like the tactile sense is still there, and I have
Yes.
this. Yeah, like, and I have this sort of like sketchpad like cover on my iPad that makes it like sound like a pencil on paper. So, yeah.
Yeah, because it is hand drawing at the end of the day, even though it's with a stylus. And I think when I first opened the book, now I can't find it. I fell on that page with you just arriving in New York at the tarmac at JFK. Of
Oh
all
yeah.
airports, that's the most problematic, as you know. But When you were on the tarmac and you had just arrived, did you, in your wildest dreams, think this could be a book, this could be something, or
No, not at all. I just remember we were super super delayed, and we were just waiting for a long time because it was raining, like as exactly as depicted there. There were thunderstorms, it was raining, so we were delayed for a long while. And I remember sitting there and just thinking what I left behind and what's yet to come. And I was just more excited about what's yet to come than, like being sad about what I left behind. But I had no idea. I mean, I didn't come to the city to become a writer. I think like maybe a small part of me really, really wanted to, but I didn't admit it to myself at the time. But I really do have to thank my Stony Brook mentors and Nick for that. Somehow, I think they supported me so much that it became a dream somewhere in the process.
oh, well, I want to talk about the fact that this book, it looks deceptively effortless, easily put together, but it's a lot of editing, it's a lot of research, it's a lot of compositional decisions, all of this problem solving going along the way. And some pages they only need a certain amount of text. Other pages, well, since it's it's fonts you're working with, and you can manipulate the fonts, you can basically put as much text as you want. Of course, it's at some point you want to limit it to just just what's needed. Do you want to talk about a little bit about the uh, the process of picking and choosing image and text?
Yeah, sure. So, initially, when I was drawing my dissertation drawing on belonging, I was trying to actually write and draw together. Like, I would literally thumbnail and I would write at the same time. And that was a very generative process because I was just learning how to make comics at the time. So it really helped me make the most of the medium. But then the dissertation did not have to be, I don't know, it did not have to be like a book. It did not have to have, I don't know, like it didn't, I guess like the standards for it were not what it is. Like, I'm not saying like the book is perfect. It's really not. I mean, when I go back and read it now, I'm like, I should have done so many things better. But for the dissertation, I guess I had more room to experiment, so that was fine for it. But for this one, I actually had to write the entire script out first and run it by my editor, and then only then I could start drawing. So this felt more like actually writing something first, and like it felt like a novel writing process first, and then I went
Hmm.
on to the drawing. Um, as for the drawings, I really like, as you will see, like I really enjoy like full panel spreads. I
Hmm.
I don't know, I just really enjoy it. It just feels yeah, I like doing stuff like that. Full panel spreads with a little bit of like experimental stuff within it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was trying to when I was making the compositions, like I was just literally trying to find a way to tell the story where the pictures amount to as much as the words. Like I didn't want to just repeat what the words were saying. I just wanted to find a way to make the visuals also tell a story of their own.
Well, the magic, or for lack of a better word, of doing graphic recording, that type of work is you distill it down to the essentials in most cases. Although you can do whatever you see fit for the narrative, but this is so boiled down to the essentials. This is a wonderful example of many in the book. A two-page spread that gives you the lowdown on the best places to eat really great Indian food and Pakistani food. And I won't reveal where it is because you'll have to get the book for that. And then there's this just the very next two-page spread is a mother and daughter dialogue that's just priceless, talking about what how did you make that dish, or how did you do that?
Do what? Sorry.
Oh, and well, let me stop myself. Tell me now, is there something that comes to mind that you wish I would ask you, or is something you want to share with the reader about the book?
No, I'm just happy to answer your questions, I guess.
Okay, very good, because I don't want to leave anything out. Yeah, it's about keeping the eye happy. Part of it is, and So there's variety and theme and composition. I love this page where you do a little mini tour of Manhattan, and
Yeah.
there's like I didn't know about that aerial staircase and gimbals. I didn't know about that. There's always something you miss because I've been like a lifelong visitor of New York. I always wished to live there, but it just worked out for me that visiting was the way to go.
Yeah.
But I don't want to dilly-dally and mess things up. I want to make the most of this, and I think like I should ask you something else about about the academic world because it's fascinating. I really recommend people go to your website and then you can dive deeper into it because you have writings and things. But there's so much to be said about comics. I'll just quote this really quick. The tradition of comics as an investigational safe space, a secular confessional booth, to quote Art Spiegelman, and perhaps be traced back to Justin Green's 72 work, Binky Brown Meets the Holy Virgin Mary. Those are the origins or the landmark works that helped let loose what came to follow. Do you want to speak maybe a little bit about your favorite graphic novels or what you drew inspiration from as you embarked on your own graphic memoir?
Yeah, sure. One of my favorite books, as I just mentioned, is Alison Bechdel's Fun Home and Are You My Mother? I really love those two. And of course, like everybody else, I read Mouse probably, like when I was in high school. And that was immediately, I didn't realize because I think before then, comics to me was like comic strips or something like that. And then I
Hmm.
encountered Mouse and I was blown away. Like, I didn't know like you could do such layered, such important work in this medium. And I was immediately drawn to it. And I then went on to read stuff by Joe Sacco and also by this Kashmiri Indian creator called Malik Sajid. His book is called Monu, A Boy from Kashmir. And this really incredible story about it's a graphic memoir, but it's also offers a lot of like socio-political commentary about Kashmir, which is an occupied land. And I just reading all of those like I don't know, like reading about conflict spaces in comics medium just made me want to study it, which is why I did the PhD on comic studies. And then later, I think like maybe 2 or 3 years into doing the PhD on comic studies is when I wanted to actually draw the book. So that came later. But yeah, it was just reading this really, really intelligent and layered comics that make me fall in love with the medium. So, yeah. Um, I also more recently, I also really love Christine Radke's book called CQ. It's graphic nonfiction, and it's absolutely incredible. It's really something I can't quite describe it, but yeah, it's so visceral and it's so informative. I want my next book to be like that.
I'll have to check that out. Can you say the title again? I'm not familiar with that one.
It's called CQ. I
TQ.
think CQ. Yeah, A Journey Through American Loneliness. I think that's the full title, but yeah.
Okay, well I'll pop in a JPEG of that. And oh my goodness, there's just so much we could talk about. Just talking about Nick Susanis and all of his landmark work alone. Um, and I know that you do so much interesting work in the Washington Post and the Neb when it was around. And do you want to talk maybe a little bit about being a working artist, being on a project? Do you always have do how do you tackle a project? Do you have jitters before you start it, or you just think, no, I know I've got an idea, running with it.
So I do not have jitters, but that's mostly because I have a tendency to take on like too much work. So so basically sort of just running from one deadline to the other because I am been working full time on as a writer artist for 2.5 years now, like really since I graduated. I graduated, I got my postdoc and it just sort of jumped into making comics. But apart from my books, I also work with the New York Department of Education and make comics for NYC public schools. I make nonfiction comics for stuff like the Nib and the Washington Post. I write book reviews, and it's just like I don't know. I'm also working with Dr. David Lowe at University of California, Riverside on a nonfiction research project on the Salton Sea, and I'm illustrating it. So it's like I feel like I would probably have jitters if I gave myself the time to pause for a second, but I do not pause. So yeah, it's probably just all pent up. Yeah,
Very
but yeah,
good.
I do really I feel very grateful that I get to do this work. It's what I love the most, so I cannot complain.
Yeah, I think we all come to it in different ways. For me, I was in love with drawing and as well as creative writing. And for you, it was definitely the backbone was research and writing, which is wonderful because you can always pick up the drawing later on. But everyone does it differently, as you very well know.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And comics, like the amazing thing about comics is like if you do not like you do not I wanted to learn how to draw properly, but as Linda Barry says, you don't have to know the technicalities of drawing in order to make comics. That's the beauty of it. So yeah.
Um, Now, I have to tell you, I'm ignorant about this, the Luca effect. What are we referring to when we say DeLuca? Because I tried to look it up and I ran out of time. Nick
Um,
Sostanis mentions it and or talks about it at length, I guess.
yeah, Paul Gravett has this really good blog on it that I suggest everyone go through because it really covers it in detail. But it's just this technique in comics that first appeared by somebody called Gianni De Luca in this adaptation of Hamlet. And it's where a sort of like a character, just a single character, appears multiple times within the same scene. And you will see sometimes, I think this was done most recently in uh, uh, the Hulk adaptation by Marvel. It appears on like TV too sometimes. So it's this kind of like really cinematic way of representing and compressing time on the page. So
Okay.
yeah, uh,
I'm glad I asked.
but yeah, it's really cool. I'll send you a link to it, where Paul explains it way better than I ever could. But I mean,
And I see
there
that
is.
you're, among other
Go ahead.
things, I see that you're working on a cookbook, a comic format cookbook.
Yeah, yeah. So 10 Speed, my publisher for this beautiful ridiculous city here in the US, also has a comic cook book series. I remember reading the first of it, Cooking Korean by Robin Ha, like years back, and I thought it was fascinating. It actually taught me how to, like make Korean food, which I really love. So I guess I wanted to for a long time, and when I was done drawing TBRC, I asked my editor about it, and that's how we got started on that.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I just zeroed in on this book because I get a ton of books that I can have an option of reviewing, and I thought, no, this one really struck me. So this is the one that's at the top of my list for now. I highly recommend everyone check it out. Can you tell us maybe a little something about the title, "This Beautiful, Ridiculous City"? I guess New York is because it's larger than life. I guess that is the right title, or is there a story behind the title? Or
There is. I have to start by saying this. I absolutely love New York. There's absolutely no other place I would rather be. When I visit home for a couple of months in the summer, I start missing this place. Um, but at the same time, New York is incredibly expensive and it has a lot of problems. And I hate it when people who are not New Yorkers complain about it, but let's be honest with ourselves here. It's a very difficult city to, like make a living in. And it has a growing number of issues that especially affect marginalized communities around the city. And at some point, I think when I was still completing my PhD, there was this storm or flood or something, like climate disaster kind of thing, and that flooded subway stations and basement apartments, and it especially and disproportionately affected lower income neighborhoods. And I don't know, it broke my heart. I was like, this city is supposed to, like stand for progress, for everything that is brighter in life. And it just, I don't know, like every time something bad happens, it affects the least fortunate of us. And it just really made me think about the promises of the city, but also the pitfalls that we don't talk about enough. So I guess that's where the title comes from, this beautiful but also ridiculous city. So yeah.
Well, maybe that's a good place to end things. I really I value your time, so I'm gonna let you get back to what you need to do. Thank you so much, Kay.
It was wonderful talking to you. Thank you so much for reading my book.